China's real estate bubble is absolutely collapsing. In 2008, when the subprime mortgage crisis nearly ended modern capitalism, housing was 8% of U.S. GDP, while housing is still 25% of China's. This is an epic meltdown and it's just beginning. Meanwhile, in the United States, inflation is so high that the Federal Reserve is talking about raising interest rates further, choking credit out of the economy completely. Gold is perfect for this environment, but it's near all-time highs already. So I want to present a company called Gold Mining Inc., trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker GLDG. The reason is that this is a company that trades at multi-year lows, extremely cheap. At the end of this video, click on this link in the description box. There's an entire presentation explaining how this company is effectively 80% or 90% more discounted than anything out there. If you're bullish on gold, I urge you to stop everything you're doing and download this carefully drafted report now. Good evening. I'm still reporting on the coup. Was Joe Biden's trip to Israel merely as a human shield for Hamas? That's the question being asked by today's edition of Israel Unwired, an Israeli news channel. According to reporter David Mark, Joe Biden is the first president to ever visit an active war zone in such a rapid way. In comparison to Ukraine, in which it took him a year after Russia invaded to visit, it has only been 11 days since the war between Israel and Hamas began, and President Biden is already in Israel. Why? Mark then introduced an Israeli video blogger, Carolyn Glick, who has access to sources close to the Israeli army. She said that according to her sources, Israel did not invite Biden to come. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken demanded they invite Biden. So remember, the full Israeli counteroffensive was supposed to begin last Saturday, but then nothing happened. Day after day has gone by, and the world has wondered what happened. Does Israel cower at the reality of fierce house-to-house fighting to rout out Hamas? Hardly. Now the full truth has come out. No, U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken organized the emergency trip into the Middle East by Joe Biden under the guise of appearing to be a peacemaker, when in fact all the Biden administration was doing was giving Hamas time to reorganize itself, while Blinken demanded a safe corridor into Gaza for food, water, and humanitarian supplies, and God only knows what kind of weaponry. Listen to 4 minutes of Carolyn Glick.
Israel is facing dangers from a quarter that many hadn't anticipated. It's not coming from Hamas. It's not even coming from Lebanon or Iran per se. It's actually coming from the Biden administration. We right now are in the danger of losing our sovereign control over our military, and I'll explain. Secretary of State Tony Blinken arrived here yesterday, and he had a 7-hour meeting in our war cabinet with the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, Betty Gantz, as well as the Observer's Ambassador Ron Dermer and Gadi Eisenkot. And from what came out of the meeting, Tony Blinken wasn't trying to help Israel at all. What he was doing was demanding that Israel enable resupply to Gaza, the euphemism of which is humanitarian aid. And I'll get to that in a second. And Tony Blinken was threatening withholding American war material from Israel that we need, specifically things like bunker buster bombs and just the bombs, the normal ordnance for our jets, which are all American, and other things, including artillery shells. And unless Israel provides humanitarian aid, then they were also saying after, from my sources, President Biden who is due to come here tomorrow, Wednesday. It was reported that Israel invited him to come. Well, Israel didn't invite Biden to come, according to my sources, out of its own free will. Rather, the administration demanded that Israel invite President Biden to come. He wants to come. Why does he want to come? I don't know, ask his presidential campaign. At any rate, he's supposed to arrive here on Wednesday. And we have all of our forces poised at the border with Gaza, waiting to go in. Yediot Ahronot published a report today saying that the battalion commanders and the brigade commanders in the Southern Command, the people who are actually going to be carrying out the mission, started demanding to go in, and explained that both the readiness and morale of their troops in waiting to invade is becoming more and more difficult to maintain because of the prolonged wait. We're also losing the momentum that we had after the October 7th massacre by Hamas against our people. And, not to mention that the international media has already turned on Israel and is now acting as though while Hamas is holding more than 200 Israeli hostages in Gaza and torturing them and raping them and everything else that we know that they're doing there, all using them as human shields, including babies, right? While this is happening, and while we have over 300 people still missing and whose bodies have not been identified and may never be identified because of the destruction that Hamas wrought, we have the International Press Corps braying and saying that it's all Israel's fault, and we have all these Hamas supporters throughout the Western world who are feeling empowered, and not unreasonably, given the backing that they're receiving from the media. And so while all of this is happening, we're standing at the border, and the answer that the commanders in the Southern Command have received from hires is that we can't do anything until Biden leaves. So that Biden is literally acting as a human shield for Hamas. So long as he hasn't arrived yet and he hasn't left yet, Hamas is not. Their terror state is going to be free from invasion.
We are still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day.